Welcome to ChiroSphere, where we talk about all things chiropractic and some things, well, not so chiropractic. I'm Dr. Ray Foxworth, your host for ChiroSphere and CEO of ChiroHealth USA, the network that works for chiropractic. Today on ChiroSphere, we're excited to welcome Dr. Jeff Langmaid, a chiropractor, entrepreneur, and leading voice in chiropractic growth and innovation. Dr. Jeff is a co-founder of multiple healthcare and SaaS companies, including Evidence-Based Chiropractor, the Smart Chiropractor, and has helped build several seven-figure businesses serving thousands of practices worldwide. He's known for turning complex marketing and technology into clear, actionable strategies that help doctors streamline operations, improve retention, and build sustainable, scalable practices. In today's episode, we're unpacking what's actually working right now and how chiropractors can simplify growth, leverage smarter systems, and move forward with confidence. Well, welcome, my friend.
I am happy to be here. Great to connect with you. And that intro sounds like I've learned a lot of what not to do. So today we will talk about we'll talk about what we're seeing out there, and hopefully some actionable items that everybody listening and watching can put into practice.
You know, some of the most valuable lessons that I've learned from people are not what to do, but what not to do. I call it stupid tax that I've paid. uh, they're both helpful. Good information, and then whatever you do, don't do this. So you built multiple seven-figure businesses and created tools used by thousands of practices. What inspired you to go from I'm just a chiropractor to I'm an entrepreneur?
Really good question. And I would have to trace it back to when I was young. Now, this is going to make me, for the younger docs, it's going to make me seem really old. But there was a show called Family Ties with Michael J. Fox, and his name was Alex P. Keaton. And he was like obsessed with business, and he was like a little guy. And my mother used to call me Alex P. Keaton because I always was just very interested in how to create stuff, how to make stuff, eventually how to sell stuff. But that was something that was always really appealing to me to become a chiropractor. Many chiropractors, don't like the business aspect. It's sort of the side effect of being able to take care of people. I always was really super interested in taking care of people, but I loved the concept of being my own boss, being my own business owner, and doing my own thing. So as I got out into practice and encountered challenges and saw things where I'm like, how come this doesn't exist? And man, that didn't work. Those stimulated creative ideas that probably later as the tree grows, became products and services, some of them that we offer today. So that's a highly abridged version.
Well, what initially got you interested in chiropractic?
So two things. I'll go out of linear order. My great grandfather was a chiropractor who graduated in the 1920s from Palmer when BJ was still teaching. So I have some artifacts and things like that, which are super cool. So I had a really long history, but that legacy was broken after my great grandfather. That was broken until me. And how that came to fruition was I wanted to be an endoscopic knee surgeon. This is how you can tell you're a geek in fifth grade, when your presentation is around endoscopic knee surgery. And as time went on, though, I'm in college and I'm like, man, staring down a 6 millimeter tube my whole life is not exactly inspiring. So I'm like, but what else am I going to do? Long story short, my father hurts his back. Classic chiropractic story. Hurts his back, had seen chiropractors on and off throughout his life. Hurts his back, gets relief, gets back to work, feeling great, and says, you got to meet this guy, a chiropractor in Rhode Island, which is where I grew up. I go back over Christmas break, and I meet the chiropractor. First words, great to meet you. Have you ever thought about being a chiropractor? I said, I have not. He said, hold on one second. This is the true story. picks up the phone and calls Palmer because he was the alumni president for Palmer in the state of Rhode Island. So he was very personally invested in ensuring that Rhode Islanders went to Palmer. So that started the conversation. As it goes, the more that I learned about chiropractic, the more that it resonated with what I already believed to be true, but hadn't framed in terms of a profession or anything else. So from that point forward, it became pretty clear that that would be something I would be interested
That's
in.
awesome. That's awesome. So you run the evidence-based chiropractor and the smart chiropractor. How did those two entities come about, and what's the difference in those two platforms, if you will, or products,
Yeah,
or how should I refer to them?
yeah. They're separate businesses with separate product lines. Yeah, we had separate platforms. So, um, the the evidence-based chiropractor is interesting because I wish I could remember the other names that I was thinking of 15 years. The name was not meant to be divisive. Like I just like I
There you go, Jeff. You
yeah,
just stepped right into it.
I looked at I had like all I had a list of like 5 names and I just like chose that one because the URL was available. I was like, it's like semi in line with what I'm trying to do, but there was like no connotation to it when I chose it, at least in my mind. Maybe 15 years ago or more now. So the evidence-based chiropractor has really evolved to be my personal brand at this point. We do have some products and services under it, the flagship being a MD referral program. I worked within a few different orthopedic groups at various levels as an executive and as a practicing employed physician. And that got me a lot of inside information, so to speak, in terms of how other professions referred people and what were some of the best tools, strategies, and tactics in order to generate those referrals in a way that, as a chiropractor, you can feel good about yourself and not feel like you're, changing your story or whatever else or having to be salesy, but just block and tackle basics. And most of that was a byproduct of my own personal pain of being in these orthopedic groups, not being able to advertise to the public because I was under a large banner, but still
Right.
expected to produce. And it's like, well, how am I going to do that? So building relationships became a really big tenet of that. So that's the evidence-based chiropractor in a nutshell. We also put out a weekly email and put out hopefully content that people like, and I think that is the case. The smart chiropractor is myself and my partner, who Dr. Jason Deitch, and we teamed up. It's a great question. I'll give you the detailed answer. I actually met up with him to help me with the evidence-based chiropractor. And at the end of a conversation, he said, I think we have like a separate product and a separate company here. And we did. So the smart chiropractor has really been focused more on technology enabled tools. So we started out as a social media posting service, really. And we've evolved that over time to include business summits, to include our flagship patient pilot program, which is about patient engagement through email and generating referrals and reactivations, as well as some other technology and now AI based tools that we're bringing to the market.
That's awesome. The it is funny how what you could say 15 years ago and what you can say today are different. The evidence based. It's like, who knew that was going to be a bad thing? I mean,
Yeah.
just couldn't see that coming. And that
No.
was probably pre-Chat GPT, so I can see why you're only limited to 5 names.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you get 500
exactly.
from Chat GPT.
Limited by your own creativity. A lot less than ChatGPT. Yeah.
So I love what you're doing with the evidence-based chiropractor and quite frankly, educating the medical community. As you may or may not know, my practice was part of a spine center with 13 physicians, orthopedic, physical medicine, rehab, PT, neuro, one-stop shopping for spine care. And I can tell you personally, I would not want to practice any other way. I mean, let's face it, every patient that comes in, I can't help. So the next best thing I can do is have a trusted resource I can refer them to. And it is really interesting uh, to watch my practice over time go from never go see a chiropractor, that if you're going to go see a chiropractor, only see Ray. I mean, that's 20 years, in a nutshell. And it was because I communicated daily with other physicians. You know, every new patient we saw, we sent a very short, brief report. We did updates in 2 weeks. And then the next thing you know, man, you start getting referrals from people you don't even know because they've told a colleague about it. And it's just a wonderful way to practice. Closest thing to having a waiting list practice is other physicians referring into you. I think that's a good model for a lot of docs. Not for everybody, but for a lot of them. You know, you're known for taking complex material or complex marketing and tech and turning it into actionable strategy. So, how about share with us how one of those strategies has made an big impact on a given practice?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind for me is, being at and was in charge of building the conservative care arm for an ambulatory surgery center chain. We had 7 ASCs and building a hub and spoke model around. It was really direct to consumer advertising, DRTV. So we're spending. I wasn't in charge of marketing, but I was in the meetings with our CMO as the director of total spine care, is what we called it. So they were spending about $5 million a month in paid advertising.
Wow.
So it really and that was cross-platform, right? So some of that was going a majority of that was going to TV, some of it was digital spend, some of it was physical paper spend, et cetera, postage. So that was a really good eye-opening, to see what people are doing at scale. And then being able to pick apart to say, what are the aspects of this that could be refined, that could be pulled out, or that could be applied to a practice who might have a 500 or a $5,000 budget, not a $5 million budget. So a couple things came to fruition with that. And one of them, some of these are going to sound basic, but I still think they're often overlooked. And those the two things that come top of mind immediately are content production and awareness. That company spending that much money still was trying to break through obscurity. It's like nobody knows nobody knows who you are. So being able to consistently get out content, even if you're spending a little bit of money, and now the tools are so much more advanced than even 10 years ago to be able to do that, is so critical because it gives you an opportunity to tell your story, as we like to say in the Smart Chiropractor, to teach and invite, to be able to teach, educate, inspire, entertain, to be able to invite people to take the next step, whether that's sign up for your newsletter, come on as a new patient, a variety of ways to do that, and then to do it consistently. So I think it really solidified my understanding and appreciation for how much I had been doing it already naturally on my own through my brand. But it showcased to me that regardless of whether you were a small potato like me at the time, or whether you were the biggest company in the world, there was a lot of effort placed towards the ability to communicate your message through content. Now, what I say content, what I would mean now would be things like Instagram posts, reels, Facebook posts, YouTube videos, blog posts on your website, potentially, all of those items. The second item was really, I'm going to say, ties in with what we're doing at Patient Pilot, and that's the email communication. I saw how much was being spent on channels that were not owned by the provider. So, what do I mean by that? I mean, if you're renting television space, renting radio space, those can be great avenues, by the way. But you don't own that channel. Same as a Facebook ad. You don't own it, meaning the day that you stop paying is the day that your promotion stops. Whereas on your social channels, there's an algorithm. So you're moving in the right direction, saying, okay, I have an audience. I don't own it, but I'm kind of on rented territory. And then I'm still a massive fan of email communication because it's an owned audience. If somebody is on your list, you have the ability to press the button and email them, and they will receive it. Now, whether they open it or not, we could talk about subject lines and things like that, but ultimately it's a direct communication line. And when you look at a direct communication line, it enables you to do some things in business that are really, really appealing. One, it enables you to reduce your customer acquisition cost, as we would say, or CAC, Why? Because you have a direct line of communication. It also enables you to increase the lifetime value of that patient, not through nefarious means, but by actually showing up. If somebody chose you as their chiropractor, you should be their chiropractor for life. They are going to come in and out of your office throughout that time. That's totally cool. But why are you letting them go when they stop coming in, stopping communicating, and then they're doing the merry-go-round to the best deal, new patient deal on the next chiropractor down the street, etc. So I'm throwing out a few items there, but I'll simplify that and recap, which is content marketing, I think, is an absolutely critical aspect of what we've seen the last 10 years, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon. The second component is having direct communication with your patients. I like email because it allows you to tell a story, teach, and invite in a way that a transactional text doesn't. Text, awesome for your transactional messages. Hey, missed appointment coming up tomorrow. But when you want to build a relationship and guide a journey to better health, as we would say, that's when I think email is one of the best and most underutilized tools in most practices.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, you hear, well, depending on who you read, email's dead, social media is dead. You hear all this stuff out there. Um, in your patient pilot program, that really piqued my interest when I heard about it. Um, well, basically, you're creating drip marketing to your patients, and you're able to, as I understand it, able to customize that information going out to those patients. Um, what kind of, I mean, what is considered a good open rate of your emails to a warm audience?
Great question. Industry standard is somewhere around 18 to 20% open rate. Our average across all of our doctors, we send to about 2 million patients per month, human beings on behalf of our doctors per month. We see an average of a 42, depends on the month, 42, 44% open rate. We're plus 40%.
Awesome.
Free average is 18%. And I would say the big tip, and I sort of alluded to this previously, but the big tip is your open rate is going to be directly correlative to your subject line. So if you're struggling with open rates, if you're listening and you're saying, golly, I've sent a few messages and I'm only getting, 8%, 5%, 12%. One, understand that there will be ebb and flow, and that's totally normal. It's going to go up a little bit. It's not static, right? Every message is going to be a little different than the one previous. But if you're struggling with a consistently low open rate, then the first place to look is your subject line.
It's the hook, baby.
That's right.
So, unfortunately, a lot of chiropractors struggle with growth and maintaining quality care. The practice gets busy, some quality can tend to drop off. But what's one key mindset or system that actually helps practices scale sustainably? And when I say sustainably, I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I had experiences in my practice. You really focus and you ramp up the numbers, but then you're down again. It is always seemed to be that yo-yo effect. I mean, clearly the ramp up's nice, but if it's not sustainable, then you're just always on that hamster wheel. So what are you seeing practices do that help them grow and sustain the growth model up to whatever the capacity constraint is they have at some point?
Yeah. I think, there's a lot of things that can go into that. At a very base level, and I'm not like you need to know 75 different metrics for your practice and monitor spreadsheets all day every day, but I am a big fan of there's probably 5 to 10 numbers that as a business owner you really need to be aware of because it helps really understand your decision making, and and then this creates more I'm going to say durability and less spasticity, so to speak, the roller coaster that you described. Get busy, do a lot, don't get a little bit less etc, vice versa. So I think understanding some very basic KPIs in your business is one of the most critically important items. In other words, and those things are almost everybody tracks new patients. That's an easy one. But understanding your net momentum, which is new patients plus reactivations minus inactivations on a monthly basis, that tells you whether your net momentum is positive or negative. If it's negative, you're shrinking. If it's positive, you're growing. If it's zero, you're infinitely sustainable at that level. So just some very basic items and understanding your unit economics. How much does it actually cost you to see a patient? And how many patients can you see? And how much money, if you were at 100% capacity, would you be making? These are very basic items, but I think they're often overlooked. And I'll give a direct example on this. In a practice that I was an owner, not a operate, I was not the doctor, but I was an owner of. We had a practice, and we are like, we want to have maintenance plans. We want to have monthly plans that enable people to come in, and we trying to decide how much should we charge for that. It depends on what you're going to do, right? And once we ended up doing the math on that, we extrapolated it out and said, imagine if 100% of our patients, if every visit that we saw all week, all month was a maintenance plan. We did the math on it, said we'd be out of business. The math wasn't going to work. Like, we were discounting it far too much
Right.
compared to how much we had in rent and how much we had in electricity cost and all of these things. So this might sound almost silly or maybe a little cliche, but I think really just understanding the basic unit economics of your business and your practice is a really critical component. How much revenue comes in per patient visit? How, what's the lifetime value of a patient in your practice? What's the capacity? What percent of capacity are you? How many airline seats were filled this week? Last week. And most people, we see it on our calendar, but almost nobody tracks it and says we were 78% last week. We were looking for 80%. We were 64%. We were 84%. Very few people track it that way. But those are, in my opinion, we become spastic when we're reacting instead of being able to be stable by looking at the full picture of what's going on and being able to make informed decisions. So that would be my advice.
For the doctors that are interested in trying to determine what is your average cost to deliver care, if you were any other business, you've got inventory, and I tell the story. If you're buying oranges for a dime and selling them for a nickel, you're not going to make any profit, and you can't increase the profit by increasing the volume because you're losing money every time. We have chiropractors that price their services at a certain level when in fact it's costing them more to deliver that. So if it costs you $27.17 to deliver an adjustment, why are you signing contracts for $15 a visit? You cannot make it up in volume. We have actually, people want to go to our website. It's CHUSA.com and key in overhead calculator. And it's a basic spreadsheet. You key in your clinic's numbers at the end of the year, take the end of last year, and it's not going to give you a forensic accounting of exactly what it is, but it'll sure put you in the ballpark to show you what your cost is. And if you don't know that number, how in the hell are you trying? How are you determining what your fee should be? So that's something that, I mean, quite frankly, we excel in. We help doctors see where they are. And I'm going to share this with you. Because we've been doing this so long and we've had access to so many fee schedules over the years, I mean, we know what people are charging. And we actually did a survey in the state of Texas, took 10 clinics or did a data dive and looked at what their charges were for their E&M codes, for their manipulation codes, whatever you want to, that's another subject for another day. And looking at those codes, and you wouldn't believe what we found. Texas has a workers' comp fee schedule. It's published. It's available to the public. Of these 10 clinics, 100% of them were charging less on the E&M codes than what workers' comp allowed. And you're going like, why? And some docs would say, well, we don't do workers' comp. That's not the point. Find the best payer in your community and make sure you're charging at least what they think you're worth. And the docs that have done this, I mean, we see routinely doctors say, hey, I've had a 20% increase in revenue, and all I did was implement the discount medical plan. I get paid well when insurance is available, and I'm not afraid to raise my fee because now I've got a mechanism by using CHUSA, the DMPO, to basically insulate all my other patients from that. So uh, you got to know that number. Use that overhead calculator I talked about. Dig into, or is there a published workers' comp or PI fee schedule in your state? And then ask yourself the question: if they're willing to pay me $50, who am I doing a favor to if I'm charging 40? Nobody. Baby needs some new shoes, you know? Go ahead and get your numbers in order. I think that is probably one of the biggest aha moments that we encounter when we're on boarding. Well, hang tight, everyone, while we take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Welcome back to our podcast with Dr. Jeff Langmaid. We're having a blast here. I hope people are learning a lot and taking notes. So let's talk about retention. It's a huge challenge. What's one underused tactic or strategy that significantly improves patient loyalty or stickiness with the practice?
I think it starts at the top. The biggest thing I think is setting expectations and agreements from the get-go. If somebody thinks every time that they come in, you're making a decision on the fly, that doesn't exactly inspire confidence that they should keep coming in. In my mind, a lot of this comes down to the conversations that you're having in your report of findings. And I'll peel it back even before that, the marketing that you're putting out on your website and everywhere else as well. And I know that different docs practice, in different ways. But when all of us, if we're making a care recommendation, whatever that recommendation is, it's because it aligns with two things: what we're seeing during the exam and tying that to the health goals of that patient. Therefore, by definition, if the patient does not complete that active care plan, they're not doing what's best for them based upon their goals and your findings. So I'm going to say it is really, I'm going to say, I'll push it to be almost an ethical issue to ensure that people are compliant with the care plan that you're making, if you're making it earnestly, which I believe 99.9% of chiropractors day in and day out are. So if we get really pragmatic with this, I think it's by I say turning over the rock, so to speak, meaning I think it's a really great idea to set the stage from the beginning with the truth, which is most of us know many patients, not all, many patients will feel tremendously better very quickly. We also know that remodeling, habit change, all of those other items take a heck of a lot longer than it does for the few adjustments for them to feel 70, 80% better. This is the paradox of what we do, is that we're able to help people feel better so much quickly. But often that is, simply, as they would say, the chiropractic aspirin. We haven't actually corrected biomechanics. They certainly haven't changed their habits in any meaningful way. And if there's any soft tissue involvement, it hasn't even begun the process of healing, remodeling, whatever it might be. So my point of saying that is just framing that from the get-go. My expectation, Ray, is that within the first few visits, that my hope and expectation is that you are going to feel significantly better. Now, there's a second component of this, and that's keeping you feeling that way for X amount of time based upon what you told me. This is another key component. You always want to tie it back to what the patient told you. It's not about what your goals are for them, it's about what their goals are for themselves. So ensuring that you are asking and uncovering that rock during your patient intake. Many people live in pain. Why are they there? Pain. They're not there for pain. People will live in pain. We all know it. How long you been in pain? 5 weeks, 5 years, 50 years. Pain is not what drove them to your practice. It was that pain occluded them from doing something that they wanted to do. Well, I've been living in pain for 10 years, but I could always get around. But last week, I couldn't get to the grocery store. I wanted to go on this trip. I play golf. We know this, but often these things are not dug into and asked. So understanding really those motivating factors so that you can properly describe the care, the treatment, and the necessity for it to the patient. because we all know that a patient that comes in pain, gets a few adjustments, feels better, comes back in 3 days, 3 weeks later because the problem wasn't so, that actually costs them more time, effort, energy, money, all of those things in the long run than actually taking care of it as appropriately as possible. There's no guarantees in life, but making sure you're doing a most appropriate care plan from the beginning. So, long-winded way of saying asking the right questions up front, not skipping over things that might seem obvious or easy, but asking the right questions up front, tying your care plan recommendations to that because that's what they should be tied to, and then re-emphasizing what to expect. Because if I expect I'm going to come in and feel better, well, guess what? I'm out of here when I feel better. If I expect that when I come in, this is going to be a process to heal something and take care of something and improve functionally something that has had 50 years of neglect, well, I'm not going to be expecting in 2 visits that everything's going to be magically changed, very likely. But it's on the doctor's communication. Patients come in and they have no clue about their body. We know this. Most people have such a low level understanding, although it's improving, of their overall health and how their body works. It's our job to be able to easily, simply, and directly communicate those expectations and what's going on to the patient in a truthful way so they get what they want. Because when they get what they want, you're going to get what you want from a business perspective.
It's been interesting starting practice in 85 as well. I mean, we can thank Big Pharma for it. Everybody focuses on the pain scale. I mean, surely everybody knows the history of where that came from. It was literally an effort to make pain, what they call it, the fifth vital sign or the next vital sign. And so when patients come in and we're always asking them, what's your pain level? Because now we got to track that and report that if we're trying to show that what we're doing is effective. And so it's real easy to get focused on the pain. And so what other message could the patient have when the pain's gone? Well, I must be okay. And I always found that it is super critical. Certainly the pain is a component, but the real reason they're there is something stopped working, meaning whatever they were doing to manage it before isn't working anymore, or it's gotten to the point where even with doing that, it doesn't work anymore. And getting to the core of, Miss Jones, why did you really come in? Well, I can't pick up my grandkid anymore, and it just kills me, or I can't get down on the floor with them. You start tapping into those feelings and to really focusing on what the importance of care is. It's about their lifestyle. It's about their enjoyment of life. And so the more we can shift just the pain talk to function and what do you want to do that you can't do now? Or what were you doing that you can no longer do? Do you want to get back to that? That really that really should be the focus of our conversation. I mean, certainly you got to record pain scales. But that doesn't need to be the only conversation for sure.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of. I'm not an expert in these, but I'm a big fan of the functional movement assessments that have really come about. Whether it's SFMA, DNS, I know there's differences, and people like different ones, but they're really great opportunities. It doesn't mean it needs to take you an hour, right? To be able to assess what's going on with an individual. And again, tying it to what's going on. And one other thing that comes to mind for me is verbalizing your examination as well. There's far too many docs that you're processing the data as you're palpating, you're processing the data as you're going through a range of motion, but you're not verbalizing it to the patient. And this is a really critical component. And I'm going to say, and tying it to the reason why they're there. I'm there because my shoulder hurts and my neck hurts and I can't go golfing. Well, when I'm going to do a shoulder exam, I'm not just going to say, lift your arm, go this way, go that way. I'm going to say, now we're going to take a look at your shoulder. Really important for your golf swing, right? Like, yeah, now lift that up. Oh, that's not as much as we would ideally like to see. That could be very well limiting your ability to swing and causing pain.
There you go.
And then record the percentage, right? Whatever it might be. But verbalizing during your examination also, whether it's a full examination eval or whether it's just on your dailies, doing your palpation, doing whatever checks you do day in and day out, a really, really critical component, because if you're not saying it, they don't know.
Yep. No doubt about it. from day one, I always had a scribe, an assistant in the room with me, and that was a deal. I mean, we walked through the exam, explained what they meant while we were going, rather than me processing it internally and then at the end saying, "Ooh la la, here's what you got, and here's what you need to do." It almost becomes conversational and educational because if a patient's been walked through the exam and they heard what you were doing, they won't do as good a job, but when they get home, they're going to show somebody. Look, I had no idea I couldn't turn as far this way as I could the other way, and so just a lot to be gained by having that dialogue with the patient and interacting with them during that exam. So I want to shift gears a little bit. You've launched multiple seven-figure businesses. What's the one mistake you're glad you made that taught you a lesson that we can learn from?
That is a really, really fantastic question. The biggest mistake that I have made, I'll give you two, one operational and one non-operational. My first business, I did this. Now, this is silly. My first business, I did not form an LLC. I actually just did it under my name. The business did not succeed. Bad idea. Many, many moons ago, but that was a really silly early mistake that hopefully is so silly that nobody listening has ever made it. The second one, I'll say that's a little more pragmatic, is not focusing on building my list and audience early enough. So I look back and I probably was putting out content relatively consistently for probably 2 to 3 years before I started collecting any email addresses from anybody, and that was a massive missed opportunity because it limited my ability to sell, but it also limited my ability to further that communication with those interested people. So I didn't take list building as serious as I probably should very early on, and that set me back a little bit, or it could have accelerated. On the flip side, it could have accelerated my ability to be more successful faster.
Yeah, and for us as docs, our list is our patient database, and the reason that a list is so important is they've already been into your practice. They already know what you do. Hopefully, they had a good experience, and it is so much cost-wise, it's a hell of a lot better to get a react in than to go spend the money for a new patient acquisition, and it is, you know, farm the acres of diamonds in your backyard, I think is a good way to think of that.
Well said.
So, if you could give one piece of advice to a chiropractor looking to grow their practice in the next 12 months, what would it be and why?
The biggest thing I would say,
I do this.
yeah, I would say become really specific with who your ideal patient is, and then relentlessly speak into their challenges and how you help solve those problems. There are too many doctors out there, in my opinion. I'll give a hot take that the wellness awaits you at the top of their website. That means nothing to nobody. If you want golfers, if in your practice on your website should be a golfer at the top of it, and then you should be on your social media accounts talking about golf. if you and here's the I think sometimes docs get a little caught up because they're like, but it's not just one thing. You don't have to choose just one. But you also, it can't just be so vanilla that you're invisible. So you can choose a couple. You can speak into a few different patient types. That's great. But the number one thing I would say would become crystal clear. Here's the beauty. You get to build what you want. So who do you want to see? Identify. Are they old? Are they young? What are they into? What are the challenges that they're experiencing? You get to define who your ideal patient is, which is so powerful. And most docs, many that even have been successful, have never done it, and they've just left opportunity on the table and frustration. Why are you seeing people that are not the people you'd love to see? Not everybody's going to be your best friend, obviously, but identifying your ideal patient and then relentlessly putting out content around the problems that they have and how you can help solve them.
That's a great point. Finally, was there a mentor, a book, or even a personal experience that just completely changed the way you think about practice growth?
I got one right there. This was
Oh,
I
great.
love this book. J. Paul Getty, How to Be Rich, Napoleon Hill book, absolutely foundational, transformative in terms of that. Those would be. I'm a relatively voracious reader, so I could probably pull out a stack, multiple places around here. But
Place to
Napoleon
start.
Hill, Think and Grow Rich, absolute pinnacle. I think it should be mandatory reading for every human being on planet Earth.
Yeah, for a lot of different reasons, not just
That's
the
right.
money side. That's for
That's
sure.
right.
So I got some just for fun questions. Who's your hero and why?
My hero and why? My hero is I'll go with both of my parents, and why, kind of putting them together. Why is because they instilled in me the ability to achieve what I want, to work hard to do it, and to be nice to everybody along the way.
That's wonderful advice. What talent do you have that most people don't know about?
I played I love snowboarding. I'm good at it because I've done it for a long time. And I play music. So I played in touring bands for a number of years on and off before chiropractic school, a little bit during, after chiropractic school as
What
well. So
instrument?
guitar, and then, yeah, I would do some touring bass work, but mostly guitar.
About that. It amazes me how many chiropractors I know personally that have a music background,
It is interesting,
myself
right?
included, back to high school days. I mean, it just seems I don't know if it's because we're tactile people and we look to express ourselves through,
I think you're
through
right.
instruments or what, but just an awful lot of them. What's the worst job you ever had?
Man, that's a good question. I worked in the laundry department at a nursing home, and we used cloth diapers. And no,
Oh
that's not a
my
joke.
gosh.
Yeah. I've had
That is
almost 60 jobs in my life. So I'm very like every time I worked all the time. So I worked like I think my wife's had like 10 jobs in her entire life. Like from I've probably had 60, 70 jobs in my life. That one was rough.
no doubt. That one probably tops all the podcasts. That there's nothing good that's, nothing good, about that. Wow. I was gonna try to top it, and there is no topper. Well, doctors, if you're offering discounts, make sure you're not violating state or federal rules on dual fee schedules, inducements, or any kickback laws. The fines are no joke. Our profitable discount strategy keeps your discounts fully compliant and profitable. Starts with a free no obligation call to see if we can help you, just like we have helped thousands of doctors nationwide. Many clinics have seen a 20% increase in their revenue and a 50% patient retention within our network members. For 18 years, over 7,000 Chiros have helped 4.3 million patient family members get affordable care through Chiro Health USA. If you want more revenue, better retention, and peace of mind, call us at 888-719-9990 or visit CHUSA.com, that's CHUSA.com, to see why Chiro Health USA is the network that works for chiropractic and you. So, Jeff, you got any trips coming up? Anything people need to know about?
Big trip. I'm looking forward to seeing you and your team. We'll both be at Parker Seminars in Las Vegas. I'm honored to have the privilege to speak. And then I'm going to be spending a little bit of time over at the Chiro Health USA booth. So, anybody listening and watching that is going to be attending Parker 75th anniversary, it is the place to be. There are still, I think, a few tickets available, but I think they're close to sellout. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you. And I'm going to encourage everybody listening and watching to swing by your booth and have a conversation.
Sounds great. Well, thanks, everybody. Make it a great day.